Hi, welcome to the True Mouse Games YouTube channel. In this episode of GM Musings, we are talking about 5 brutally honest tips for new game masters, but not only new game masters. In the last couple of days, I have talked to a lot of different game masters online and asked them what their favorite tips for new game masters would be. If they had 3 tips that they could give their younger selves when they started game mastering, or a new game master that is just starting now, what would they say? And from this many answers I have received, which were quite different from each other in a lot of ways, I have chosen some and added some of my own, of course. And I will tell you what the most important ones, in my opinion, are in this video. That said, this is my personal opinion, and in this video I might be a little harsh here and there. And if you think I'm a dick at the end of the video, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes you have to be a bit of a dick to get the point across. Or at least that is how I sometimes feel. Number 1, talk to your players. I'm sure you have this amazing story and this amazing campaign and this amazing setting and everything prepared, and now you just want to have your players jump in there and play it, right? And it's gonna be amazing. Wrong. First, what you need to do is talk to your players. There is such a thing called Session 0, which is the session before the actual start of an adventure or a campaign, where you meet with your players and you ask them what kind of game do they want to play. Do they want to play something that's more lighthearted, comedic, or something that is more heavy on the moral and other notes, something that's much more serious? Do they want to play a game that is more rules heavy or rules light? Do they want to play a game where they have to struggle in every single fight, where they are challenged in every single fight? Or do they want to be great heroes that are hardly ever challenged and wipe the floor with most of their opponents? What type of setting do they want to play? Do they want to play something with a lot of magic, or would they prefer to play something with less magic? That said, once you have talked to your players, don't just slavishly follow their desires. Choose something that's fun for you and them to play. And that's the way to create a great story and a great campaign. The second point is start small. Sure, you can do a massive campaign where your players start as small farmers and then slowly discover they are the chosen ones prophesied for 1,000 years, and they will unite the 20 nations under their banner and battle hordes of monsters and finally face the Demon King in a final confrontation, the last battle, and end the reign of evil once and for all. You can do that. But that's a very strong commitment, especially if you're not too used to GMing, to game mastering yet. Start small. Run a simple plot. Run a monster hunt, for instance. Or run a bounty on some sort of bandit lord. Run a small campaign that's maybe about 5 or 6 sessions from start to finish, and tell your players that you will be running such a thing. You will suck at the start. Unless you're one of those very few game masters who's already good from the start, you will suck. I did, most other game masters did. Nonetheless, don't be too harsh on yourself. Your players will most likely still like it, especially if they cut you some slack, because you are a new game master after all, and there's a lot of things you have to juggle in your mind. And of course also, especially if you're following the other 4 steps that we are going through in this video. Let's come to the third point. Be prepared to put work in. Now this is a bit of a personal pet peeve of mine, and it really rubs me the wrong way when I see many people on the internet just writing, oh, I just improvise everything, because you can't really have a plot in a role-playing game anyway, because the players will ruin everything, they just do what they want, and I can never know what they'll do, and my plot just flies out the window on the first opportunity. That is correct in some regard. Nonetheless, I can't help but think that most of these people are just lazy. No matter how good you are improvising, unless you're once again one of those weird geniuses that can improvise an amazing plot from start to finish, unless you are one of them, and you're probably not, you will need some preparation. Game mastering is work. It might be fun work, it might be rewarding work, and it is, both of these things, but it is work nonetheless. You will have to sit down before your game, you will have to think of a basic plot, you will have to think of basic NPCs. If you don't do that, you're not by any means getting the best game out of yourself that you could be getting. On the other hand, you should not over-prepare. Don't think you have to have a million plot lines and a million NPCs, all their families and friends and allies and whatnot, all their relationship with one another. And if you don't have these things, you're gonna suck. And don't prepare this massive long quest line that the players will have to follow. That's a mistake that a lot of beginner game masters do, and we'll get to that in our next point. The fourth point is, don't try to control everything. Now, this is something that I personally, still after 15 years of game mastering, struggle with sometimes. Freedom is, to an extent, the one thing that makes tabletop role-playing games special and great. In no computer game you will have that amount of options, the amount of freedom that your character has in a role-playing game. You can literally do whatever, or at least try whatever you want. And that is something that you should give your players. To an extent, of course. Know the rules of the game system that you are playing, but remember, those rules are guidelines. Pretty much every single role-playing system out there has a little sentence in their Game Master's Handbook, or even the core rulebook, that says, the rules are guidelines, the Game Master can feel free to change the rules whenever he sees fit. And that is something you should keep in mind. Don't treat the rules like a holy book that you always have to adhere to. Sometimes it can be more fun to bend the rules a bit, especially if both you and the players would like to see that. The rules are guidelines. They're there to make a game possible, but to make a game great, that's probably when you need to change them a bit and bend them a bit. Have a plot, but again, don't be afraid to improvise if your players do something that you have not foreseen. There's few things worse to do as a game master than having this massive plot that goes from A to B to C to D to E, and you also only have one road for the player characters to travel. And you always force them to take this one option, this one road from point A to B to C. And if they don't do that, if they're trying a shortcut or a detour, you, or some game masters anyway, panic and try to force the players back. And that's an experience that sucks for the players. I can tell you that. So try not to do that. Fifth and final point, that in my opinion, maybe the most important one of all of them, if you are game mastering, don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself. Role-playing is, at its core, a silly hobby. But like most hobbies, soccer is silly, right? Computer games are silly. They're all not real. They're all made-up things that we do for fun. Role-playing games are the same as that. You're already silly, you play role-playing games. Don't be afraid to push out of your comfort zone as a game master. Never think, oh, what will people who see me doing this think about me? Will they think I'm weird? Will they think I'm stupid? Fuck that. Be as weird, be as stupid, be as silly as you want. Do silly voices. Show your teeth when you're talking. I don't know. Pull out your ears and your nose. Do whatever you think will signify a character or a monster or a situation that you're portraying best. Get emotional, get passionate. That is when your player characters and your players will have the most fun. And encourage your players to do the same thing. Try out new things. That's what we are all here for, to try out things that we can't do in our normal life. And that's what makes role-playing games great. Sure, I said it's going to only be 5 points, but I'm going to cheat and I'll add a 6th point, sort of, to the video. And that 6th point is have fun. You're doing this to have fun. It's a hobby, right? You're doing this to spend time with your friends. You want them to have fun. But don't forget, you as the game master, you also need to have fun while doing this. You need to be passionate about your story. You need to enjoy the game. If you don't, then all that preparation work that I talked about before will be terribly bad for you. You'll hate it, you'll be annoyed by your friends, and the whole experience will just suck for everyone involved. If the game master hates the game, everyone will hate the game. So don't forget, you're doing this for fun, the players are doing this for fun, and you're all here to have fun. So whatever else you do, whatever rules you want to disregard or not, the main thing is that you do it in a way that everyone at the table has fun. That said, that doesn't mean your player characters and your players always have to have fun. Sometimes they'll get into situations that suck. Sometimes they'll lose. That's all part of the fun. Hopefully in the end, you'll all have a great time, especially following these tips. Now, if you have any other tips that you think are a must to share with new and not so new Game Masters, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear some more things, what you think is important and necessary. And tell me what you wish when you were a new Game Master, what someone would have told you. Sometimes a new Game Master needs a proverbial slap in the face and some new ideas. I certainly needed them when I was a young Game Master, and I'm pretty sure most Game Masters out there would actually appreciate it. As always, if you liked our content, our GM Musings, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel right here and take a look at other Game Master Musings and tips videos that I have created right up here. And also, as always, until we see each other again, True Mouse Games says goodbye, good night, good luck with your own games, and don't forget, have fun. Bye bye.